with Theresa May, and I can say that along with the rest of the country, I hope that Boris Johnson, when he inevitably gets in, does well, but I'm not holding my bloody breath. And anybody who has optimism about even Brexiteers and Tory party members, anyone who actually has any actual, shall we say, ideological optimism coming into the next round of negotiations, if there even are a next round of negotiation, should relive the last couple of years to see how that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to pretty much state what I stated at the beginning of this, which is Hunt's playing to the room, or you know, he's attempts to play to the room and kind of win hearts and minds on Tuesday. I get what he was going for, but because it was Boris's room, it was so see-through, it was so transparent, and it just fell on its face. He just fell on his face, and it's a shame because again, Boris needs to take the consequences of his. He needs to feel the consequences of his actions over the last week, which is just making himself look like an idiot and essentially because let's be honest, he is the next Prime Minister. He's making himself look like a second-rate statesman. He looks like a fool at the moment, and I wish he could take some kind of, political and polling consequence for that, but it's just not going to happen. The room, and I mean the room metaphorically, as in the membership, he already has them. He's to lose. Right, we're going to move on to an American subject now. I'm never particularly good at covering these just because I just get fucking turned off with the American debate in regards to the quote-unquote culture wars, because you have so many British people, like pundits, covering this now, that you do just sometimes think, fucking just cover UK. Like, not just just cover the UK, but you do live and work in a country that is, also has a massive political upheaval going on. Why do you just talk about the States?
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to kind of leave this introduction up to Tom, because Tom actually kind of brought this to my attention. But there's been a bit of a spat between Nancy Pelosi and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Tom, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So we'll just give a little bit of background on these characters for our British listeners who may not be familiar with them. Nancy Pelosi has been a fixture in American politics for a long time. This is her second decade. This is her second tenure as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. She's from a very blue district in San Francisco. And she is effectively the leader of the Democratic Party right now, as the highest ranking politician. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was recently elected in the last midterms in another very blue district in the Bronx. And she arose to fame because she's very young. I think she's only 29, she's youngest.
28, I think she's elected, isn't she?
And she is very outspoken. She also happens to be very pretty, especially for a politician. Mm-hmm. They have in the beginning of this congressional term, as it were, they were best buds. They appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone together, and Nancy Pelosi was effectively using AOC and a couple of other of the freshman congressmen or congresswomen even to get some progressive credence, as it were. However, this is turned to backfire as they disagree quite a lot on policy, particularly when it comes to criticising other Democrats. Whereas Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a member of the Justice Democrats sort of caucus, as it were, who are a very similar group with very similar aims to Momentum. Wanting to get more progressively ideologically based.
For anyone who may be listening from outside the UK, do you want to explain Momentum a little bit?
Yeah, Momentum is a grassroots organisation which helped get Jeremy Corbyn elected to the premiership of as the leader of the opposition, and has been mainly impacted recently as trying to effectively gain him more allies by getting out the sort of more Blairite or perceived Blairite MPs in favour of more progressive and socialist based MPs. Which is very similar, as I say, to Justice Democrat, except that they have slightly different priorities, particularly when it comes to green. The Green New Deal is a big thing for Justice Democrats. But yeah, just sort of going back to the current day, as it were. AOC has been notorious for criticising other House members for not being ideologically pure enough, particularly not being criticising people in swing districts who are in the South. Now, these swing districts in the South have a lot of black representatives, because that's one of the ways that you have to win as a Democrat in the South, is to have somebody who's going to represent the large ethnic minority population there. So
They drink good, don't it?
yeah, basically, yeah.
I love that. It's one of my favourite clips of all time. I take it you've seen that.
What was that one?
It's basically one of the representatives from Georgia within the Senate, the senators from Georgia, who is a heavy-set black fellow who basically is debating. He's taking part in a debate on a bill on whether to allow beers over, I think it's a 5% ABV into Georgia, and I think it's specifically in regards to allowing a certain amount of Belgian breweries import beer into Georgia. And this guy has no, the amount of great, black sort of up and coming black politicians out there. This guy has no basis to be in a Senate, let alone public office. He basically just says, we got the beer we have good, don't it? It drink fine. Give me some of that Budweiser, that Miller Lite. I'm paraphrasing. I mean, you'd have to watch the video on YouTube. It's fucking brilliant.
Sounds like beer protectionism, effectively.
Beer protectionism.
Yeah.
But sorry, going back to the original point we're making about Ocasio-Cortez and the kind of the ethnic minority vote.
Yep. So you've got AOC and her ilk, as it were, have been criticising them for not being pure enough, which is understandable because they're in swing districts, so they have to be somewhat moderate, otherwise they're just going to get kicked out of office the next time, which is the point that Nancy Pelosi has been raising. And it's gotten ugly this week, as AOC has suggested that the fact that she is a woman of colour and a lot of her allies, as in Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib, are also women of colour, and that it's been heavily suggested that this may be the reason why Nancy Pelosi has gone away from them a little bit and started criticising them, despite the fact that that is obviously a ridiculous assertion to lay down against the Democrats in the House, as they are by far and away very progressive and very intersectional, particularly in the last few years. And Pelosi has come back with saying, well, you're attacking black congressmen and women in the South, so you're actually the racists. So you have a situation here where two wings of the Democratic Party are both calling each other racists when they're actually both doing it for political gain, and neither of them are being racist. I doubt that either of them think that they actually are racist, but it's kind of, particularly as someone who's more right-leaning, we're just sort of sitting back and laughing at this, because right-leaning politicians have been the butt of this tactic for a long time, and I think the public are getting wise to it now. Even more left-leaning people are just getting sick of this this name-calling and cat-calling game, effectively.
Can I just say this was bound to happen? Pelosi, the likes of Pelosi at the top of the Democratic Party, and in this kind of new wave that kind of reflects, again, momentum in the UK, this social justice caucus, on an ideological level, it was just bound to happen, particularly when you've got this harder left element that is just hell-bent on just purging any kind of moderate and any liberal. We've gone back to the era now, just on a personal level, just knowing a lot of people involved, particularly on the British side of things, with momentum, and with the kind of purge of centrist MPs, which I find just deplorable. You're overturning democracy, but they are hell-bent on anti-liberalism. They hate liberals. Liberals gone back to being a dirty word again.
Yes, or neoliberal, as they love to use, which is a term I don't think I've ever heard a lot of people describe them as, because liberalism never really went away, so how can you be sort of neoliberal? Neoconservatism was an actual movement and has a lot of ideological framework, whether you agree or disagree with it, but neoliberalism is more of a slur that progressives use against moderates.
Obviously, just on a political point-scoring issue, AOC at some point was going to take a hit at the sort of quote unquote old guard of the Democrats. I don't know if there's any kind of concerted push, on the map in the States like there is in the UK within the Democratic Party for a purge, like there is in the Labour Party in the UK, just because, in all honesty, the Democrats are ideologically, on a basic level, are a different party to Labour. Labour is traditionally to the left party. They are a socialist party, and a purge of, 90s era New Labour moderates, as much as I disagree with it, and they're fucked if they ever, achieve their full aims, it kind of makes sense.
It's going back to the party's roots, and there's at least a justification for it that's based in some type of reality.
With the Liberal Democrats in America, it makes no sense because it's just not the origins and it's not the political basis of the Liberal Democratic Party. The Liberal Democratic Party, you have to remember, came out of the Republican Party. It is a economically liberal party that just happens to take a more kind of social justice and socially liberal stance on the social issues to the Republican Party.
There would be the Democrats in America, I would say, have probably never been more left wing on particularly on social issues, but they are becoming more. They might have been like this in the 60s when they were pushing for universal healthcare, but never actually got it through. But especially since the sort of Reagan era, when they definitely moved back into the centre when it comes to economics issue, or even on a global scale, people would consider themselves more corporatist and right wing, which is where you're getting this backlash from. Particularly in the age of Trump, and I think this has a lot to do with it, whereas their thought is, well, if the Republicans can do it, why can't we? The Republican Tea Party movement was successful in doing a very similar thing, getting more ideologically pure conservatives into the House and into the Senate, and the Democrats, who have traditionally the Democratic base has always thought of the Democratic Party as bad at elections and bad at actually putting forward the progressive agenda, so why not do it ourselves, as it were? And they are targeting how they would describe corporate Democrats in safe seats, because if you're going to run to the left of somebody, you've got to do it in a
which is a big fucking, is stunking hypocrisy, because let's be fair, the Bronx is not going red anytime soon.
No.
It could potentially go red in a communist sense under AOC. It's not going Republican anytime soon.
No.
So, I mean, the hypocrisy as well is she has a majorly safe seat.
Yes, she has an absolute major safe seat, and the only way that she's going to lose that is she dies on her own sword, as where it gets primaried, which is something that the moderate wing are looking to do.
Yeah.
There is actually quite a big sort of
fight back.
Yeah, there's almost a primary of the primaries going on at the moment to determine who's going to be the moderate candidate. So
basically, it's the opposite currently of what is going on within the UK Labour Party, which is the one by one you are just slowly, you are again the particularly the kind of the more senior, the kind of well known sort of centrist MPs are just getting knocked off one by one.
Exactly. That's what Justice Democrats would love to do, and they had a big media success in AOC, and she got a lot of attention. But it's not gone too well for them in other districts. They've tried this, and whenever they did win primaries, and in particularly swing districts, they ended up losing a lot of those, which makes sense to somebody who has sort of a view of, well, moderates are going to do better because they're going to be more in line with the centre, but there seems to be this mode of thought within progressive Americans, particularly on the coast, that actually what America really needs or really wants is the progressive agenda. They just haven't had the opportunity to vote for it because there's not been a real progressive candidate.
So talking of, and or speaking of, who is this playing to on AOC's side of things? We have an idea of who it's playing to, but what is this going to achieve?
The sort of debate, the fracture that's going in between them at the moment.
Well, the targeted, because let's be honest, we can call it a debate, it's really just kind of a targeted call-out.